Welcome back, everyone, to the Baklava broadcast. We are back and better than ever. Aside from me, who's struggling from allergies today, all the changes and all that pollen and shit. Um, but we are here on a Sunday, and the round one of the NBA playoffs concluded last night with the Clips Spurs Game 7, which was quite the game. And so we are here today to recap some of those games as well as kind of preview this round two, which actually got underway this afternoon with two games. So I am once again joined by the two normal podcasters here, Kurt in Houston, which there is some great news in Houston, not related to the fact that the Rockets now are playing the Clippers instead of the Spurs, but rather that the Stros are red hot. Kurt, how you doing?
Well, since nobody in the city cares about the team, I'm glad you informed me that they're doing well. I don't think anyone had any idea. But no, anytime the Stros are hot, life is good. So it's about all I need to say on that.
Yeah, enough said there. 10-game winning streak from the Stros. It's real early, but I think they got a shot at the MLB title this year. Bold prediction. And also Rahul. How the Geese doing, Rahul?
The geese are good, man. And I installed the basketball hoop just this past week. I think this like old shirtless man watched me the whole time. He had binoculars too, so that was weird, but it was good. We got the hoop up, so all is well. So that was my week. What about you, J-Rod?
Not much. Not as exciting as that, or
Yeah.
weird, but yeah, done pretty well. I guess we can start off the podcast recapping our favorite Cavaliers. And last time we spoke, they were up 3-0 going into Game 4, and Game 4 was just a mess. With the Celtics, we were able to close it out, but I guess we can go more into what happened with that game with the Kevin Love injury that everyone is talking about, as well as J.R. Smith's suspension for the first two games of this upcoming series against Chicago. So, to, I guess, start us off with this Cleveland-Chicago series, given Kevin Love's injury and everything else, Kurt, if you wanted to start us off, just your initial thoughts of what this injury means for the Cavs going into the series and how you see us like matching up with the Bulls.
Yeah, well, first off, I'm just going to say that the way that we ended that series, even though it was on a win, we ended on like the worst way possible. Obviously, losing Kevin's pretty big loss, and then I think J.R. Smith's role has been understated. And it's going to be really tough without him for two games. I mean, we're really just on offense, we're looking kind of small. It's pretty much just going to be the LeBron and Kyrie show, which I guess is better than the first time LeBron was here, and it was the LeBron and Damon Jones show. So, yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting. One of the big matchup issues to begin with the Bulls was the bigs matchup, seeing that they have Pau, Taj Gibson, and Noah, and we were already going to struggle against that matchup because our only true defensive big is Mozgov. Thompson's undersized, and Love doesn't really like to play defense. So I think we're going to get, I don't know exactly how we're going to counter without Kevin if LeBron's going to have to move to the 4, which could be very interesting. But, yeah, things aren't looking real good down low. So I think that's probably going to be the main matchup because Rose seems to be playing pretty well. He's going to get his, but Kyrie can pretty much match him, or I would expect him probably to do better now that Love's out as far as production. But yeah, it's just going to be – it just makes it extra tough because he's a unique weapon that we have, and I really don't like our chances terribly much without him. So we'll have to see what Blatt does to try to cover up our lack of height down low.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the other aspect you got to like look at is so if you take Kevin Love out of the lineup and replace him with someone like Tristan Thompson, um, they're very different players. So with Love, even if he's not doing well or struggling or whatever might be going on, you still have to respect his 3-point shot, and that means that Joakim Noah or Taj Gibson or whoever's covering him at the time has to be dragged away from the paint, and that clears it out for Kyrie and LeBron. So now, instead of just going up against someone like Pau Gasol when you're driving the ball, you're going up against him and Noah, and that makes it a lot harder, considering someone like Jimmy Butler is probably guarding you in the first place. So I think given that Kevin Love and J.R. Smith are both out, LeBron and Kyrie are going to up their scoring, but I think the efficiency of their scoring is going to kind of go down a lot. So there's that. As far as the series, though, I don't know, you sounded kind of pessimistic on it. I still think we're going to win the series. And I think it's going to be one of those series where LeBron is going to will us to it, but we'll see. It would have been easier with Kevin Love, but I think it's still doable without him.
Yeah, I think it's certainly going to be a tough task, especially going into game one as well as game two when we're without J.R. Smith. And I think with the Kevin Love injury, I think it's going to be more of LeBron at the four, kind of what he played with Miami and gave them the best shot to win. And then it also, I think, means more Iman Shumpert. I think he's a big X factor in this series as well, and the way he'll probably be able to guard D Rose a little bit, because I think if Kyrie guards D Rose most of the game, that'll wear him out a little, I think. And it probably might mean more for like maybe Sean Marion enters the rotation a little bit. He's got the veteran experience, so I think he could step up and play some decent minutes for us. I think we also could go small more. I think if you look at the Milwaukee-Chicago series and what Milwaukee was able to do was they were basically able to guard Joakim Noah down low with their wing players. I mean, given their wing players are huge and their whole team is just enormous in itself, and like Giannis and his huge wingspan and everything, but I think we could get away with putting someone else on Noah because he just really hasn't been like offensive this year at all, and like he hasn't played the way he did last year where he was just like high at the post and like dishing and stuff. And then you also look at the possibility of playing Mozgov and Thompson a little more, which spacing-wise doesn't really make sense. But if you look at the smaller sample size of when they did play together this year, the Cavs averaged like 111.1 points per 100 possessions, which is probably like top in the league. So I think with that lineup as well, I think you have a big advantage with rebounding. You look at the Bulls and you think with all the bigs that they have that they would be pretty good at rebounding, but they're actually like 19th in defensive rebounding this year. So with Thompson and Mozgov, I think that can pose problems. If you look at, I guess, all four matchups during the regular season between the Cavs and the Bulls were pretty much missing key players in all four matchups, so I think this 7-game series will have the full look of the Bulls and who they'll throw at us. And like I said before, I think Rose could pose some problems for Kyrie defensively. And then you look at who they're going to throw at LeBron, and like Rahul said, I think LeBron and Kyrie, they could well average maybe like 65 to 70 points per game in this series together, I think. I don't think that's too ridiculous considering like who else, especially in the first two games, like who else is gonna really carry the scoring burden for the Cavs, you know?
Deli.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I really hope this doesn't lead to like more of Kyrie Deli combos or anything like that. So
No, there's no way.
yeah.
So let me ask a question.
hmm
In this series, do you think that the loser of this series, the coach that loses this series, will lose his job?
No.
No?
No,
I
I don't
think
think
that
so. I mean, I think more so likely of Tibbs, just the rumors of him maybe leaving Chicago and stuff, but I don't think there's any way the Cavs fire Blatt or anything. Yeah, I just don't think either coach should be fired or will be fired if they
yeah,
lose the
I
series.
pretty much agree in that the only way a coach gets fired is if it's Tibbs. And I think he might just be gone anyway, kind of like wear out his welcome.
Right.
And I think the only way that he might stay is like they might have to either get to the conference finals. Well, I think they might have to win all, honestly, for like. But even then, I don't know. I don't think they're good enough to win it all, anyway. But yeah, I think Tibbs. It's too early to say on Blatt, especially like with Kevin Love out. That's kind of that'd be pretty harsh, I would think. But I guess I have a question for you guys. So,
Yeah.
do you think that this is a series that Kendrick Perkins is actually going to see like maybe 10 minutes a game, or do you think he's still just gonna come in and get a technical foul and maybe hurt somebody, or is he actually gonna on the floor for a little?
Well, he's definitely going to do that if necessary. If it gets like into a rough series, then yeah, I think you'll see Kendrick. I think to start off though, like I have an inkling. I don't know if David Blatt actually announced his lineup yet, but I feel like he's still going to try to bring Thompson off the bench, and that you're going to see a lot of like Sean Marion or James Jones at the 4
Yeah.
with Thompson as a primary backup.
Yeah.
But I think if Kendrick Perkins can be avoided as far as basketball, they're gonna try to do that. So I don't know. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, kind of the same thoughts. Yeah, I think he'll see a little more increased time. I hope not. I hope no more than 10 minutes a game, to be honest. Just the way he just like turns the ball over a lot, and yeah, he'll probably just foul a bunch and like get Chicago all flustered and stuff, and then just pissed off. And
This is where you really miss Alex Kirk, you know. Question for you guys. Oh, go ahead, Kurt, and then I have a question.
Oh, I was just gonna say I kind of like Kendrick Perkins taking some minutes and guarding Noah.
Yeah.
Just because Noah doesn't really do a whole lot besides kind of just set screens and then do like dribble handoff.
yeah,
So I think it's useful to throw his big body in there for a little to just kind of be annoying and get under Noah's skin because Noah's an emotional player, so maybe he can I don't know, maybe he can pick up some technicals for him or something like that. I don't know. I think he might get utilized more than we hope, but I think it won't be a bad thing either.
Yeah. Plus, like, even you can throw him on Pau Gasol, and if you think about that, like, that would not be like a pleasant series for Pau Gasol.
No.
You know, he has to face Mozgov and then Perkins.
Yeah.
So. Do you guys think that we've seen Kevin Love play his last game? And maybe we'll get more into this later. But just real quick, yes or no, was this Kevin Love's last game in Cleveland?
I'm going to say no, only that whatever team he ends up on after is going to come visit the Cavs at some point, so they'll probably have to play in Cleveland at some point. But you didn't say as a Cavalier, you just said in Cleveland.
Oh gosh, yeah, I was so
technicality there.
I was so confused.
But no, yeah, I don't know what it is with like his I don't know like what's going on upstairs with him, but I feel like he just seems more comfortable being the go-to guy in a bad team than being the third wheel on a good team. And if the money's going to be the same either way, it doesn't seem like which it's tough. During the regular season, it didn't seem like he was terribly interested in playing. And then the first round, he was like, I don't know if it was just the fact it was the playoffs and he was pretty excited for it, but it seemed like he was playing really hard. So that kind of swayed me to think like, oh, he's really enjoying like being a part of something that could be really special. And then of course, the whole Olynyk thing happened, and I don't know. I feel like he's gone, unfortunately. But I kind of hope that because of the injury and him being out the rest of the season, that he like thinks that he needs to come back another year to try to prove that he's like a valuable guy and can be a part of something like a championship team, which quite frankly without him I don't think we have much of a shot at. So I'm gonna say my gut says no, but maybe the injury makes it a little more likely that he comes back.
Right, yeah, and I kind of echo those thoughts. It's kind of it seems tough to read what his priorities are, and what he's really interested in is as if he really wants a championship, or yeah, like you said, if he just wants to be the go-to guy on a mediocre team and doesn't really, have that need for a title. Kind of reminds me if he has those thoughts of like Carmelo or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money and things. To a less annoying degree, but as far as next year, yeah, it'll be interesting. This injury kind of puts another wrinkle into it, I suppose, and I don't know if like people saying that because Olynyk did that he's got to rule out Boston or anything, and then Boston also has the idea of going after Boogie Cousins too, so. I think if he does leave, it's for LA, and I think he will leave, actually, but
Yeah.
I don't have a strong feeling for or against it.
All right, fair enough. Should we jump into the next series then?
Are you gonna say what you think?
What I think, I don't know. I can really see him opting in to his last year and just kind of getting a better feel for the NBA market. Because like you guys said, like if his main option is like LA this year, like I don't even know if that'd be a mediocre team with him. Like especially in the West, like
Yeah.
like yikes. So that's not a great option. And
They got Bobby on their team.
they got Bob Sackett. Yeah, that's true. He's up and coming. Yeah. But then you got to think that Bob Sackett might take all of Kevin Love's minutes, so you gotta
that is true. Good counterpoint.
I hope that people who listen to this realize how sarcastic we are, because otherwise it sounds pretty bad. But all right, let's jump into the next series. Let's finish off the East. Talk about Atlanta, Washington. First game was today. Washington pulled that out. What was the final score on that? Or I don't know. Do you guys know?
It was
like
Washington
96 or
104 to 98.
Yeah.
Washington won by 6.
Okay, cool. So let's just start with some thoughts on this series as a whole. J-Rod, let's kick it to you first.
Those Zards, baby. Yeah, last week I talked about they've been playing really well, and today they were kind of down most of the game, and then Bradley Beal kind of went off and kind of propelled them to victory. I guess if you look at this series as a whole, the Raptors were pretty much a joke in the first round in terms of a matchup for the Zards, and Atlanta's defense, I think, will test the Zards a little more than the Raptors would, and Toronto primarily ran a lot of heavy isolation offense, where with the Hawks they're a lot more, free-flowing, a lot of passes in their style, so it's a large contrast in their style, so to be able to go into Atlanta in game one and steal that game, I think, is pretty impressive. And then, Pierce at the 4, it seems like it wouldn't pose too many problems for the Hawks like it did for the Raptors, but he had another solid game, and he's just always solid in the playoffs. So I think Atlanta's bench will have to step up. I think in the last series, their starting five pretty much carried them. And today it was like a lot of Damari Carroll and like Corver. So I think Atlanta's bigs, Horford and Millsap, have to play better and be able to exploit the Zards down low. But I guess in terms of predictions for this series, Zards are up 1-0 already. Already stole out a road game, and they actually play very well on the road. I think they're undefeated on the road so far in the playoffs. But I look at this as a pretty close series. I feel. I think it will go Zards in 6. I'll say. Kurt, what do you
Dang.
have?
Yeah, it was it was a pretty good game to watch for the most part. Probably important thing to throw out there that Bradley Beal had some sort of ankle injury, and there hasn't really been anything said about how serious it is. It looked like it was
Sprain.
a pretty good sprain. So with today's technology, he might have to miss like one game, but I know that their next game is on Tuesday, and I think the next one after that is until Saturday
Yeah.
or something. So if he somehow misses the next game, he'll be fine by the third game. Yeah, it was. I honestly couldn't believe that Atlanta lost at home, especially at the end of the first quarter. They're up by 11. Things were looking pretty good, and then Washington. They played pretty solid defense, but Atlanta missed like I don't know how many it was, but it seemed like a ridiculous amount of just bunny shots right by the rim that they just couldn't buy to go in. And then they shot 13 for 38 from 3, which is about 34%, which isn't too bad, but I think usually they shoot a little better than that. So I don't know. Johnny, what you said was pretty telling that Atlanta really doesn't seem to have much of a bench at all, and their starters are heavily relied on. All their starters are double figures, and then Dennis Schroeder had 9, and Pero Antic had 5, and then 2 other guys had 2 points. So pretty much not a whole lot of help there. But yeah, I don't know. It is tough when you don't really have a whole lot of bench to go to, but neither do the Wizards. I mean, they have Porter who played well, and Drew Gooden actually played well, which is surprising. But
Chris Humphries Kardashian.
yeah, he didn't quite get any time in there. But no, I don't know. The Hawks seemed like for a long time that they were kind of unbeatable, and the fact that they lost their first game on their home court is pretty concerning. I'm not willing to pick the Zards to win the series yet, but I think I'll take the Hawks in 7 because yeah, kind of like you said, the Wizards like on the road. But I wouldn't be surprised if like the Wizards went 2-0 and then Atlanta won both games in Washington, and it was kind of a mess and nobody really knew if home court had any advantage. The most important thing is Bradley Beal's health. If he's not healthy, then there's no way that they can win. So keep your fingers crossed, Zards fans.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of, well, I guess what I have to say is pretty similar to what Johnny said. Like, my initial prediction would also be the Zards in 6. Yeah. I think Atlanta is starting to feel some of that pressure, right? That, like, none of us kind of gave them credit throughout or I know I didn't give them much credit throughout the regular season. And they always had to constantly, like, prove themselves. And now they're feeling that pressure of trying to have to prove themselves as an elite team. And I'm also kind of a big believer in, like, momentum going into the playoffs. Like, I know, like, a lot of coaches aren't, and they'll rest their players, and they'll kind of be average going into the playoffs. But I think there's something like 10-10 in their last 20 games. And I don't know, I got to think that has some kind of, like, psychological effect on you if you're just 500 over that span of time. So there's that. And then the other thing I want to bring up is that, like, Atlanta's last game was, like, what, a few days ago? and Washington's been sitting for a while, like a week now, because they swept their series.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you can underestimate that, especially with like guys like Pierce, contributing to Washington. Um, Gortat's like 31 and plays a physical game, so like the rest is going to help Washington a lot. Um, so I don't know. I'm leaning towards Washington, and in a way, I think that's kind of good for the Cavs because I also kind of still believe in home court advantage. And if we beat Chicago, we'd have it throughout the East playoffs. So we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my prediction. Wizards.
Let's go Zards.
All right.
Yeah, baby.
All right. So if we're good with that, let's hop to the West. So what series do you guys want to talk about first?
We can go with the Clippers since they just came off a pretty ridiculous, amazing, exciting win last night.
Yeah.
All thanks pretty much to Chris Paul putting the team on his back. So, I don't know, John, do you want to give us a little? Did you watch the game? / do you want to give us a little recap?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, me and Rahul
Yeah.
watched it last night, and it was a great game, full of both sides, offense and defense from each team. It's just a very entertaining game that went back and forth. Yeah, you look at the clips, and Chris Paul goes out with that hamstring injury, taken to the locker room and everything. I don't know how serious that injury would be, but he comes back and he just carries the Clips. Despite not getting much bench production. Solid game from Crawford, as well as Blake Griffin. He really stepped up, and he quietly kind of averaged 24, 13, and 7 in that San Antonio series.
Ooh.
And the Clips made their free throws late, and yeah, they didn't play DeAndre really late at all. And yeah, it was a great game. The big question mark I have, I feel, is how much do the Clips have left in the tank, and what's the extent of Paul's injury? I think going forward. Rahul, if you wanted to add a little more to that game and what you saw.
Yeah, that was a good game. Plus, our Wendy's run at halftime made it special.
Yes.
So, that's the big question I have too. And I'm going to kind of say the same thing I said for the Atlanta-Washington series. The Clippers rely so heavily on their starters that it's going to be tough for them because their game was yesterday, and now they play tomorrow. So that's not much of a break at all. That's hardly a break. And Chris Paul has that injury, so that's going to be a tough start for them in that series. So that's the big concern I have about the Clippers. But their win was impressive because like San Antonio made plays down the stretch, and the Clippers matched them. And I don't know. San Antonio usually gets that momentum, and teams can't keep up with it. So it's a good sign for the Clippers, but it is kind of concerning about Chris Paul. So we'll see what happens. And then as far as this upcoming series goes with Houston, I think a lot of all of us can kind of agree these are kind of two of our least favorite teams in the league because the Clips kind of complain a lot, and Houston just has players that are easy to dislike. But I think one of the keys for the Clips in the last two games was that they didn't get caught up with the referees too much. So I think if they can kind of keep that up and not kind of moan so much to the refs, that's important, more than you think. So we'll come back for predictions, I guess. But Kurt, I'll pass it on to you then.
Yeah, I'm very glad that I tuned into the game and didn't throw $100 on the drain to watch that fight.
Yeah.
Apparently was god awful, and I'm not really into fighting anyway, I guess, but
Yeah.
sure, it sounded like a lot of people were pretty upset that they spent some of their paycheck on that.
Yeah.
But Floyd's laughing all the way to the bank, so I don't think he cares. Anyway, yeah, it was a crazy game back and forth. Really, I just could not believe how well Matt Barnes played. He had a
Yeah.
couple big threes,
Late.
and he played some ridiculous defense too. Which, I mean, yeah, and he's not necessarily known for his defense, but he's not known as being like a bad defender. He's like a pretty serviceable wing guy. So that was it was a great game, and yeah, like one of my favorite plays I think of the night was JJ Redick just kind of pulled up for like it was towards the end of the game, maybe like 4 minutes ago or something, and JJ Redick just decided he was feeling it and kind of pulled up for a three off the dribble and sank it right after, I don't know, Patty Mills had a shot or something. And it was just, you could just tell that the Clippers were just oozing with confidence, and I don't know why, but I just had this feeling like the whole game that the Spurs just could not, that they couldn't win. But they kept it. I got to give them credit. They kept it close the whole game, and it really came down to the Clippers making one more play when the time ran out, and that's pretty much all it was. I mean, it was. I can't remember exactly what the stat was. I think maybe it was at halftime that the difference in score for the series was like maybe the Clippers were like +2 or something over the course of 7 games by half. It was something ridiculous like that. So then it's just a testament to how even it was, and I guess it's kind of fitting that the last game go down to the wire like that, and Chris Paul plays some hero ball, get away with a nice push off, but of course they're not going to call it there. So yeah, I guess I know we've knocked Chris Paul a little, but maybe he heard us and responded by taking the Clips to the second round. He was very emotional about it after. It's a big deal, and they certainly have championship aspirations. And going through the Spurs, even in 7, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. So they're trying with a lot of confidence. Yeah, for their sake, they better hope Chris Paul is healthy, because if not, it's going to be the Austin Rivers show, and we all know how that's going to end. So. So I guess since I've been going, I might as well just keep up and give my prediction. Seeing as I am from Houston, naturally I'm going to want them to win a little more, because
you're from Houston now?
Like the Clippers.
I know you.
Well, I consider that here. I'm from here now.
You're
For the past 8 months.
Fair
But yeah, I mean, naturally I have to root for them, except against the Cavs. I pick the Cavs always, but
right.
Yeah, I want to say that I think Houston will win in 6. The Clippers are going to put up a pretty good fight, and I just think Houston, I don't know, something about the way they play is kind of, it's hit or miss, and that it relies a lot on long distance shooting, but they've been pretty hit all year, and I don't really see a reason why that would change. And I guess my biggest hope is that it doesn't turn into like a Hacka Howard versus a Hacka DeAndre all series, because that's a good way to get everyone to stop watching. So yeah, I'll say the Rockets in 6, and I think James Harden will be the best player on the floor by far, and Josh Smith is going to be big time.
Okay. Yeah, I'll kind of echo your sentiments, and the difference I see between the teams is like, where you're going to get out of Chris Paul, presuming he's healthy, and James Harden, Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin. You kind of know what you're going to get from those guys. The difference I see is between like the wing players, and these guys, Trevor Ariza and Corey Brewer, have been playing pretty well for Houston, and Matt Barnes has been playing well too, but I don't see Matt Barnes keeping up this pace of like he's like shooting threes real well, and I just think the Clippers are too thin for that. They're just too thin. They have no bench, and like I said earlier, they have no rest. So I'm gonna go with Houston as well. I don't know how many games. I'll say, I don't know, 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think kind of echo your guys' thoughts. I think a big burden has been placed on the Clippers starting five, and if you look at in the first series, the LA starters averaged like 81 points, while their bench just chipped in like 22, basically. So, there's definitely an imbalance there, and especially if CP3 is out at least for game one, then that burden more falls on, I think, Jamal Crawford. And if you looked at Houston and what they did in the first round series, Josh Smith was actually a big part of that. And the play of him, he actually ranked second on the. He averaged like 17, and he was also like a 52% shooter from the field. So their bench actually, before adding Smith and Brewer, they were just averaging around what the Clippers did. But then since they added those guys, their bench production has jumped up like 15 points normally. So I think that's a big key that Houston has Harden who can dominate a series, and if CP3, who most likely, I'm not sure who else the Clips would put on Harden to guard him, but if CP3 is not at 100%, then I think Harden can exploit some of these mismatches and get some guys into foul trouble as well. So I look at it as a pretty good series, though, especially in the front court as well. You have Dwight Howard, who's playing really well against DeAndre Jordan, and then I think uh, I think Blake Griffin will have to play really well for the Clips to remain in contention as well. Um, but yeah, overall, I just see the Rockets having more depth, and the Clippers. I think they've exhausted their best basketball, I would say, against the Spurs. So I would say Rockets in six as well. So kind of all on that Houston team to win this series, I guess.
All right, nice. Let's jump to our last series then. Golden State, Memphis. Golden State, Memphis played today, and Golden State looked unstoppable at home, as they kind of have
Yeah.
all season. Also, they kept showing Mike Conley on the bench, and like it looks like he got mauled by like a gorilla.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's not a good sign. Um, what do you guys think series-wise for this, Kurt?
Yeah. So Johnny and I were talking about this the other day, and even with Conley, I thought maybe Memphis could push it to 6. But yeah, as you said, he's not he's not looking real great, and I don't think he's planning on playing in either of the first 2 games, which they're certainly not gonna win in or at Oracle without Conley, and even if he was there, I still don't really think. I mean, the Warriors won by 15, and it was pretty much cruise control after the first quarter. And so, yeah, with that being said, I certainly don't see Memphis being able to win a game at Golden State. And with that, so then basically it comes down to the games 3 and 4 in Memphis. And I think that Golden State's going to grab one of those, and then they're just going to win the 5th game at home. So I think I'm going to take the Warriors in 5, but if Conley can't return, then I'd expect it to be a sweep, quite frankly, because Memphis the way Memphis wants to play doesn't the Warriors are just, I don't know, they're not about that, and Memphis can't really match Golden State's pace, and it's hard because Memphis like to play a slow, like grinded out game with Gasol and Randolph had 21-9 and 20-9, so they certainly did well. But outside of that, like there's really not a whole lot else the team can rely upon to score. Tony Allen had 15 points and they still lost by 15, so they just can't keep up with Golden State. I guess even or probably regardless of what style of basketball they play. But yeah, pretty much what you said. Golden State looks unstoppable at home, and I think they're quite frankly, they're good enough to win a game in Memphis. And, if they're not going to lose at home, I think it ends in 5.
Yeah, this is a tough matchup for Memphis, especially without Conley. They don't really have a chance, and Ben Udre has kind of battled an ankle injury, and I think he's played his best game in the previous series against Portland. Then you have players like Nick Kalithis, and like those guys cannot handle Curry at all. And I mean, even if you do pass off Curry to like Allen, you still have Thompson, McGard, and so many other players. And so Golden State just can beat you in so many ways. They basically have answers for anything that you throw at them. And it just comes down to Golden State can play the style that Memphis can, and Memphis really can't play the style that Golden State has. So Memphis just doesn't have the offense. They don't shoot any threes, so there's no way for them to keep up. I mean, and like the only real like advantage, if you want to call it that, is like down low with Zebo and Gasol, who today, they each had 20, but I mean, if you don't have production from any other players, then it's hard to stay in the game. So, yeah, it just seems like a real tough. It just seems that Golden State's just so dominant that if Conley does play, maybe they steal a game, but I'm just leading towards a sweep more than anything. Maybe 5, but I see more of a sweep for this one.
Yeah, I think we all agree that Golden State's going to win this series. There's like an article out where or just like a GIF of Draymond Green hitting a 3 in front of Memphis's bench, and after he hits it, he just like twerks in their coaches' faces. And so I'd say they're feeling pretty comfortable with the series, and they just have so many advantages, especially with their guards. And I don't see how anybody can beat them at home right now. So they're not going to lose those games. I think Memphis is talented enough and too proud to get swept. I feel like if they're down 3-0, they can steal that 4th game. And I think we've seen that a lot with the inferior team. Like Dallas did that with Houston. Portland did that with Memphis. So I don't think they're going to get swept. I think 5 games is a good bet. But I'd say we all agree that it's going to be Golden State in the Western Conference Finals. So, yeah. We didn't disagree too much on our picks this week.
No.
So.
Yeah.
Well, did we actually assign? I don't think for the Cavs Chicago series that we made a prediction as far as how the series would play out. Did we?
Yeah.
You're right. I'll say Cavs in 6.
J-Rod?
Damn it. Cavs in 6.
That's bold. I like that. You guys think that we're not going to have to win Game 7 at our home court?
No.
If I had to pick, I would say Chicago in 7.
Whoa!
It would be on our home court.
Whoa, shots fired.
It's just going to be a really ugly series, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of it we ended up with Brendan Haywood playing 20 minutes a game because everyone else got hurt. As much as I love Brendan, I don't really trust him out there. But no, I don't know. It's probably gonna be very hard to watch because it's gonna be there's just not gonna be a lot of offense going on. There'll probably be some pretty ugly fouls because both teams hate each other, and I don't know. I think we're a little too fragile for that. So, if you think about guys like Shumpert and Kyrie, I just crossing my fingers that a hard foul on a drive doesn't end their season. So,
well, they got D Rose though, so you could say the same thing for them.
That's true, but they got Aaron Brooks to back them up, who's not great, but he's certainly better than if we had to go Dellavedova versus Aaron Brooks. I think we all know who we'd pick in that one. So, Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess naturally I'm a little pessimistic, but I don't have a good feeling about it for whatever reason. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
hopefully we can stay afloat with JR out. That's gonna be really tough.
Yeah.
I think to because like Johnny said, wouldn't be surprised if LeBron and Kyrie put up 65 or 70. Even though those first two games from JR side, I don't know. Shumpert really is gonna have to step up because I don't know who else is really gonna be able to score. Hopefully I'm kind of just praying that whoever like James Jones or I don't know, maybe Mike Miller will play. That whoever's out there is hot and that can space the floor for us because that's we're going to need the spacing with our two playmakers going inside a lot. So and James Jones did not shoot well in the first series. So yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. I guess it'll be a fun first game, and hopefully we at least win the first one.
All right. Fair enough. Um, we can let's talk about LaMarcus Aldridge real quick, and then we'll close off on that. Um, so I'm sure you guys are familiar with the rumors that LaMarcus Aldridge probably isn't re-signing with Portland the way things are looking. It's been reported for some time that those Texas teams, the Mavericks and the Spurs, are the front runners to sign Aldridge. But recently, it's been said that if Kevin Love doesn't re-sign, Aldridge would be interested in coming to the Cavs. So, what are your thoughts on that? Would you guys rather have Aldridge than Love? Just generally speaking, what do you guys think? J-Rod.
Yeah, it's an interesting rumor. With Portland out of the playoffs now, and the focus in Portland seeming to be more on Dame Lillard than Aldridge. It seems that us, as well as I think Dallas and San Antonio, are the main teams that are interested, as well as like the teams that he would want to go to. I think Portland is actually the only team that can offer him like a 5-year deal with this. And then they're also eligible to start like recruiting him. I think it's July 1st. But in terms of the fit, I guess if Kevin Love leaves, I think if you plug in Aldridge, it's a great player to have and someone who's kind of coming into their prime of their career. Another like solid player who can stretch the floor and really provide some great offense and everything. So if Aldridge signed in Cleveland, I'd be great. That'd be great, I think. So, Kurt, what do you think?
Well, first, I'm just going to throw out there that anytime there's a big free agent, Dallas assumes that they're in the running for him, which I'm not sure that's necessarily the case this time. Yeah, if Kevin leaves, that would be, that would pretty much, I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily consider it well, it might be an upgrade, but that's, at the very least, you're not losing a whole lot if you plug in Aldridge for Love. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I never really thought of Cleveland as like that free agent destination that people want to go to. But if he's frustrated in Portland with the way things, realistically, with Portland in the West, they'd need to sign at least one pretty big name to have any chance at even making like the conference finals. So if he realizes that and sees the East as a much better chance to actually like get deep in the playoffs, which frankly it would be, then there's no reason that he should stay in the West. But I can also see him as that guy that goes to the Spurs and just stays there forever because once people go there, apparently they don't want to leave. So I don't know. It would be awesome to pick him up because it doesn't really seem like Kevin Love's going to stay. So that would be a pretty awesome move by David Griffin I think we'd have to do a sign and trade.
Yeah.
Or they'd do a sign and trade for him. So I'm not sure exactly how that would work out as far as like what we'd have to give up for him. But yeah, I don't know. That'd be a good pickup. I would probably lean more towards him going to the Spurs because I don't know. I just feel like I feel like he'd fit in well there and be like their Tim Duncan replacement, except obviously not nearly as good on defense. But yeah, that would be necessarily not a bad guy to have on your team. So
Yeah, I agree. It seems that what's happening is Cleveland's becoming the place where like disgruntled stars want to go to win, and that's kind of like how Kevin Love was too. Um, I think the reason Dallas thinks they're in the running is because Aldridge is from Dallas, so like that
yeah,
gives them that kind of hope or whatever. And obviously the Spurs, he can be like Tim Duncan's heir. Um, but I think best case for the Cavs is still that Kevin Love resigns, because you're exactly right. To get LaMarcus Aldridge, um, we need to have a sign and trade in place, which means we're probably going to give up a lot of our core pieces. Um, and I think as constructed, we can win a championship with Kevin Love healthy. Um, so I like Aldridge more than Love, but we have to give up stuff to get Aldridge, and that's not the case with Love. So best case, I think Kevin Love just resigns, and that's the end of it. But yeah, we'll see
yeah.
what happens. All right. That's pretty much all I got. Do you guys want to add anything for the week?
Shout out to Matt Bonner for a trillion last night in their loss.
Nice.
He did a really good job, though. He actually canceled out Dante Jones, who also had a trillion. So
Oh, sick.
that's a good one. One of those bench players like that can cancel out a Dante Jones. So big shout out to him, and hope he's not feeling too down today about the series being over. So feel better, Matty.
Was he was in on the last play, right?
Yeah, he was 3-point shooting or something. I don't know why, but he was in there. So.
I would have lost it if he got the last shot and had a game
my
winning three. Could you imagine? That'd be great. Well, actually, I thought it was interesting because I guess we didn't really touch on it, and it hasn't. I don't know if that's necessarily been like a huge media deal, but like the inadvertent buzzer that went off,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here, let's give you guys another minute to look at what play we're running, so you know exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, I would have been so angry.
I mean, with 1 second left, yeah, like Pop said
Yeah.
in the post interview, like there's not a lot you can do, but at least like I don't know, could have given him some sort of chance to either run the first play without totally fucking them over, or give him a little time to like call something different. But
Yeah.
that was interesting. The same thing happened today, actually, in I don't remember which game it was. One of the games that I was watching, that same thing happened where. Actually, that was the Wizards game.
Yeah, last like end of the
like-
first half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, that happened. It happened twice, and it's like, I don't know, interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about all I got. Looking forward to another fun week of work.
God, let's not talk about work. All right. Cool. Well, I guess we'll be back sometime next weekend.
Yep.
All right. Let's talk to everybody soon.